If you're considering a career in medicine, this show is for you. I'm going to be talking to a variety of healthcare professionals who are going to share the reality of what it takes to have a successful career in medicine. The good, the bad, the inspiring, the funny. My name is Michelle Neske. I'm a physician assistant and your host, about to bring you Beyond the Scope. If you've done research into applying to physician assistant school, you know how crazy it is with all the different requirements, programs out there, and how do you choose which one is best for you? Well, luckily, two of my friends and PAs created an amazing platform that you can do this all in one place called My PA Box. Research schools by state, track your hours, look up all the requirements, literally in one spot at mypabox.com. You can also use their PA school match to enter in all your demographic information, your GPA, whether or not you took the GRE or PA CAT, and filter for schools that would be the best fit for you. You guys, this has been game changing for pre-PAs, and I use it all the time with my clients. You can go ahead and get a 1-year subscription. And because you're listening to this podcast, if you use Posh PA 15, you can get 15% off your 1-year subscription. You will not regret this. If you are a pre-PA, it will sort things out so much for you and just make it easier to do the research on the programs that are the best fit for you. So check them out, mypabox.com. Okay, everybody. I am here with Hope Cook, a fellow physician assistant who practices in dermatology in Georgia. And I'm excited to have Hope on today because we're going to talk about being, mothers as PAs, but also about burnout. I think a topic that has become much more of a hot topic in the medical profession, which actually has its own ICD-10 code now. And, sort of our experiences with that and what we did to sort of get out of that funk, or what we're doing to sort of make people more aware that, this can happen to PAs. It's not exclusive to physicians or, other providers. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So first, tell us a little bit about how you decided to be a PA and what it looked like, where you went to school and such.
So I've been a PA for 18 years. So back when I decided to go to PA school, they still offered schools. You could just do a bachelor's degree and finish PA school that way. But I already had my bachelor's degree, so I decided to apply to the only school in Georgia that offered a master's, and that was Emory. And I don't know how I got in because I really didn't have a ton of experience, but somehow I got in. I had a high GPA, but I got into Emory. And yeah, that was exciting moving to Atlanta. I didn't think I could live in Atlanta in the big city, but loved that school.
Yeah, that's awesome. When did you graduate?
2002.
Okay, awesome. So you've been in practice a little bit longer than me. I graduated in 2005.
Okay.
So now, have you always done dermatology?
No, I did internal medicine for the first 5 years. And I thought, when I graduated, I said, oh, that's the only real medicine. I'm not going to specialize. That's, taking the easy way out. And then when we had our first kid, I realized that internal medicine, it's overwhelming. You're not curing anybody usually. You're just sort of treating a lot of these chronic diseases. And I decided to try my hand at working in a specialty, and I was hooked. I love dermatology.
Good. So what do you love about it?
So I love that it's very tangible. You can feel, skin. You can look at a mole, feel the texture, look at a rash. You're not listening for some vague heart sound or, peering into an ear with a tiny little otoscope. So I love that it's right there in front of me. Yeah. And it's also super quick. We have 10-minute appointments, and you can get easily bored if you're sitting in the room with an internal medicine patient for 30 minutes talking about diabetes.
Yeah. And you also do obviously a lot of procedure-based.
Yeah. So I do a lot. I don't do a ton of cosmetics. I just do biopsies, freezing, things like that.
Okay. Awesome. So, so tell us about that change when you had your first daughter, and what was that like for you? I know my own experience having a daughter at 36, um, I, we had moved a lot of times for Dave's training, and there was never a good time. Like there's
Right.
never like a
Yeah.
good time. But we really weren't ready for that either, prior to when we actually got pregnant, which was a little bit of a surprise. And so I think that, for us, when we got married, we thought maybe like in a couple of years, but with his training and stuff, we
Uh-huh.
found it hard to even find time for ourselves.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to give that up. I know that's like
Yes.
super
No.
selfish sounding, but
Totally
like
get it.
I was like, we were like, we're not ready to give up that little time that we have together,
Yeah.
yet. Um, and so, yeah, so I mean, eventually, we got pregnant at a time that wasn't really expected, but worked out great.
Uh-huh.
But it was a huge transition.
It is. I mean, it is huge. We got married and we had 5 years between the time we got married and the time
Hmm.
we had our first baby. And
Yeah,
so we moved out to Montana for a couple of years. Then we moved to
yeah.
Washington, D.C. And we just really got to know each other even better and have fun. And I
Hmm.
got to experience, you know, the steep learning curve of being a new PA in internal
Hmm.
medicine.
Yeah,
And then we decided to have our kid, and we had a son first.
yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, I remember going in to talk to my boss at the time, and I worked for an all female practice, and they were excited for me. But I remember she said, Hope, the practice is going to take a big financial hit when you go out on maternity leave. And I just
Hmm.
felt, yeah, I felt so sad about that. And just,
Yeah.
it was kind of like, well, don't make me feel guilty about taking time off with the baby.
Hmm.
Um, and then, trying to work and have a kid. So
Yeah.
after a few months, I went in and asked if I could cut back to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer, just
Yeah.
having one day to myself. But I had to
Right.
get over the guilt of not keeping him with me,
Hmm.
the entire day when I was off, because you have to have time for yourself. So I would
Yes.
still take him to the nanny and
Yeah. I know. I mean, I feel like, number one, there's this some guilt that, should you work or not? And
uh-huh.
it's a hard decision,
Yeah.
for people. I knew that I needed to work.
Mhm.
So I just knew I
I
couldn't
did too.
be home.
Yeah.
And that's not to mean like I don't love my daughter or want to
Mhm.
spend time with her. I'm actually like a better human being. I'm nicer.
Yes.
If I'm working and having adult conversations and using my brain more, um, and so when I'm with her, I'm better,
Right. I
whereas when I'm
agree.
home a lot, I get easily frustrated with her. I lose my patience, things like
Yes.
that. So that's one thing. And then, when you do go part time or you figure it out, and then you're like, oh, I feel bad because like I'm here, but I'm not here, like kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, Michelle, the mom guilt is so real. I write
So
about
real.
this sometimes. And, if you don't make it to all of your kids' events at school, if
Right.
my daughter will say, I wish you were like Genevieve's mom. She's a real estate agent and she's done every day by 2 o'clock. And,
Yeah.
I'm not.
I
So,
know. I know.
yeah,
My
that's really tough.
That's hard when they say it to you. So,
Yeah.
like, she'll say to me too, like, I was the last one, when they had extended day. Now, granted, extended days open until 5:30. I showed up at 5 and there were like 2 kids left, right?
No,
And she
I've
was
been
like
there.
crying and she's like, "Oh, the last one." I'm like, first of all, you were not the last one. And second
Right.
of all, like, it's 5 o'clock. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
it's
And
like,
these school events, like they'll have math day and they
yeah,
let you know a week ahead of time and it's
right.
at 10 a.m. And
Yeah,
there's
it's a
no way
10.
I can cancel an entire morning's worth of patience to be there for 30 minutes to do a math
Yes.
worksheet.
Yes. I mean, it's constant. And I mean, a week in advance, like great, but too bad. I mean, I got a thing full of, and it's always a 10 or
Yeah.
11. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the worst time. Like,
Yeah. I
like
agree.
first thing in the morning or at lunch or something, maybe. But she has said to me that too, like, why do you have to go to work?
Yeah.
And I tell her that I like to go to work,
Mm-hmm.
that I want to go to work and that, we are able to live in this house and go on trips because
Yes.
we earn, money to pay for all
Uh-huh. I've tried
stuff.
to explain that too. And yeah, well, I was furloughed for 4 months. And
Oh
so
my
I had to
God.
explain. I mean, it was so great being home with the kids, but I had
Right.
to explain that we don't have mommy's income right now.
Right.
So we're
Right.
not going to do all the same things. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that kind of put it in perspective for them. So,
Yeah. 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 I mean, I can't even imagine. So you were furloughed, but, at the same time, it also gave you some time to kind
oh,
of
yes.
evaluate some things, right?
Yes, because a year earlier, I'd experienced a kind of massive burnout.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it was so good to have that break.
So what was your burnout? When you say burnout, what exactly were you feeling? How long had you been a PA at that point? And what were some of the things that you not only felt but did that made you feel burned
Yeah.
out?
Well, the first time I experienced burnout, I was in dermatology. I'd been a PA for about 11 years.
Mhm.
And I worked for a doctor, a solo female physician, and I kind of blamed everything on that office. Oh, it's the doctor I work for, it's the medical assistants, it's everything. And finally I just realized, well, with therapy, that I was miserable
Mhm.
and that I had to take ownership and make some changes. My body was telling me, you need to move on.
Mhm.
Migraines, not sleeping, just
Oh,
an
wow.
anxious ball of, nerves. And so when I finally decided, if my daughter were in this same situation one day, I would tell her, you have to move on, like it's
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
And so when I finally did that, I felt so brave and just the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was a few years went by. I was at my office I'm with now
Mhm.
and loved it. Everything's great. Good office manager. My boss
Mhm.
is just wonderful. And two of the PAs went out on maternity leave
Oh,
last
wow.
summer. And so that's our busiest time of year.
Mhm.
So we all saw our schedule numbers creep up. And pretty soon I was seeing like 50. That was not unusual.
Yikes.
And if you do the math, that's less than 10 minutes a patient. That's like 7 minutes a patient. So I just started feeling like I don't know that I can keep doing this. I'm sort of doing a halfway job with each
Yeah.
patient, and they deserve better than that. And you start looking longingly at the Target checkout lady and thinking, if I could just swipe, items all day.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And
So
so
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then my husband and I went for a financial consultant meeting, and the guy was just, looking through his papers, and he said, all right, Hope, I have you working another 20 years, and then you should be pretty set for your retirement. And I just lost it. I was like, 20, are you kidding me? 20 more years? I don't think I could last like 3 months. So my husband had no idea. I mean, he thought everything was fine. And that was sort of a wake up call for me, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I had a similar experience
Yeah.
where I was about 8 years in. We were in Texas. Um Hold on a second. Charlie, my dog is deciding that he wants to try to play with me in the middle of this recording.
Play
And
in a romantic way.
yeah, like give me that ball. Give me that ball. I mean, this dog is obsessed with balls. Obsessed. Where is it? Okay, drop it. Leave it. Okay. Night night ball. Night night. Night night. Okay. So he'll probably sit here and whine for it. But okay. So I was in Texas. Um, we had moved, a couple of
Yeah.
times. So we were in Miami for 5 years when Dave was doing his residency, and we moved to Texas.
Uh huh.
And, I was in oncology and he's doing a cancer subspecialty for ENT. And, we're both working at MD Anderson and all this. And, you know, we didn't have any kids, we had the dogs,
Yeah.
but we had no family there. We didn't really have a ton of friends at the time. And I just worked all the time,
Yeah.
like all the time. Like I was just there, seeing however 25 plus cancer
Uh
patients,
huh.
a couple days a week, started taking on all these administrative responsibilities, started taking on like trying to like write some publications, but then also be involved in like societies and like all this
Mhm.
stuff. And I did it during the week and I did it on the weekends. And when we were getting ready to move to South Carolina, I was like, I need to get out of here and I need
Yeah.
to stop working. Like,
Yeah.
I was pregnant. I was like, I want to go back to work, but like, I don't know that I can go to back to work as a PA. Like, I am so, you just start getting like emotionless
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you're like, I don't like, you're looking at a patient. Like, there were some days where I looked at like, I was looking at a patient and they were talking and I was like, I felt nothing.
Yes. If you could roll your eyes in front of the patient
And I
and
was like,
sigh loudly.
I just basically was like, I want to get out of here. Like,
Right.
I want to get out of here
Yeah.
now. Like, this is not, and that's not the kind of person I want to be.
Right.
And that's not the kind of PA I want to be. And that's not the kind
Yeah.
of care I want to
Yeah.
give. And that's not what people deserve. So, and I told Dave, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. So, going back part time was a
Mhm.
hard transition for sure.
Yeah.
But just even the sense that, okay, I've been working my butt off. I
Mhm.
don't know that I want to do this anymore. Coming to a new city, having
Yeah.
a baby, bought a house, like all this stuff's happening,
Yeah, all
then I
those life
get all
changes.
these life changes. Then I get postpartum, then,
Yeah.
anxiety. Then it's like I told Dave, I'm like, I don't know that I can take care of anyone. Like I have to
Mhm.
basically barely can take care of myself.
Yes.
And
And the guilt and the
the
shame.
guilt of having to stop breastfeeding early and having to, all those things that go through your mind that you're not adequate,
Right.
as a mom, you're not
Yeah.
adequate as a PA. Now what? Now you're just you. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just kind of like, but you don't feel like yourself and you don't act like yourself. And I think, like you said, talking, the biggest thing that helped me in this whole thing was just talking to someone,
Yeah.
therapy, and really just trying to find ways to be more mindful.
Yeah.
And like you said, taking the time for yourself. It's so
Mhm.
hard for us to do that. We're providers. That's
Yes.
what not it's like what we do for our job is we care for other
Uh-huh.
people. And then as moms, that's what we do. Like we
Right.
care for our
Mhm.
kids. And so just really letting that go and saying, I need to do this for me. And that's hard. Hard
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Super hard.
It's so hard. Yeah, and we define ourselves by our career. So when that's not going well, and then
Right.
you feel like a failure as a mom because you're not there for you in your mind, you're not
Mhm.
there for your kids.
Right.
Um, there's a PA Facebook group, Wellness and
Yeah.
Burnout, and just having those honest conversations with people about how you're not it may appear that you're juggling all the balls, but you're not. And
Yeah.
I tell people surround yourself with like-minded mothers, not the
Yeah.
ones who are not going to be real about the struggles.
Yes.
And that's what
Yeah.
I appreciate about you. You're not afraid to say this is hard. This is
Yes. Like, yeah, and I like that group too. I'm in the
yeah.
group. I think it's just, I think it's finally becoming okay for,
Hmm.
us to speak out about this or maybe just more awareness, I guess, of it.
Yeah.
I think the working mom versus stay-at-home mom thing has been around for a while, but
Yeah.
I think, you know, in both scenarios and having, one of my best friends, multiple of them be stay-at-home moms and then me working, the struggles are real in both
Hmm. They
aspects
are.
of this.
Yeah.
And so I find, being a mom is way harder than being a PA.
It is. The 4 months I was home on furlough were way harder. The work never ends. You don't get to leave and go home. I mean, you are home. You are at
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So
And so I agree with you. Like COVID was not good for my momming skills.
same. There's going to be some therapy needed in the future for my
Oh
kids.
my God. I was
Um,
like, what did I just say?
but
Um,
my mom majored in home ec and she was a first grade teacher.
that's
And
awesome.
so she just has a different mindset about it.
Mhm.
And so when I'm trying to tell her about my struggles, she's sort of like, oh, send your kids outside to play, and
Yeah.
Kids nowadays want you to be their playmate. So it's just a whole different world.
Yeah, I agree. And, but I think too, like, the AAPA did a survey, are
Uh-huh.
PAs burned out? The answer was yes. And it was
Yes.
around 7 to 8 years in practice, with the highest rate being in the ER, which I could
Right.
understand,
Yeah.
because of the amount of emotional and physical energy that goes into
Yes.
working in the ER. And then, but at the same time, which was so interesting, everybody loved their job. They
I
just
heard,
did.
yes, I did hear that study. That was
So like
bizarre.
the job like the satisfaction of being a PA
Yeah.
was there, but they were burned out of their job. Like, they're burned out of doing
Yeah.
all of these tasks, administrative things. Um,
Yeah.
it was a very
Notes, doing notes for
interesting.
hours.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of people say, I want to become a PA, not a doctor because of work-life balance.
Yes.
I was like, you got
Yes.
to be careful there.
No, no, that's, yeah. You better not do it for that reason.
That's not the reason. And
I
when
think a man wrote that article. I think, the whole PA career is good for work life balance. Yeah,
Mhm.
that must have been a man.
I just feel like it's in whatever career you choose,
Yeah.
you make it balanced
Uh
because,
huh.
you know, I could easily work full time. Would
Yeah.
that work for my family? No. Like,
Right.
I would never see my husband. My kid would probably be even, you know, more angry at me than she normally is. And like, that doesn't work for our family right now. Right
Right.
now, it doesn't work. Could I
Yes.
do that and work every single day and do that? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
This profession has given me the flexibility to say, I'm going to do this part time and be able to find a
Yeah.
position, but it doesn't create the balance. You do.
Yes. And you
So I
have to
think
have
it's an important distinction.
the courage to do that and the discernment to know when it's time.
Yeah.
We stick it out for years because
Hmm.
like I said, we define ourselves by, I am a PA. This is who I am.
Hmm.
And, at one point you just kind of wake up and say, wait, there's more to
Yeah.
life than this.
Yeah. And also, like you said, it's like you work hard, to get where
Yeah.
you are, and then you have this guilt about, oh, well, I worked hard and this is what I always wanted. This is what I wanted. So I
Hmm.
have to like keep it going even if I'm miserable.
Yeah,
No.
especially for women who are the breadwinners in their families,
Right.
or even for male PAs who are the breadwinners. It's so much harder to admit that they need to cut back or they need to change jobs or,
Mhm.
because in my case, the more patients I saw during last summer, the more
Mhm.
I made. And
Right.
so you see that paycheck coming home and you think, oh, we can
Yeah.
go to, stay on a ranch in Montana this year.
Yes.
But is it
Yeah.
worth it if you're so burned out you're just
Yeah. You're just
comatose?
like, yeah. You got to go out there and just be like a lump on a log, basically. I mean,
Right.
it's all a balance. I mean, I think it's, but I do think having the sort of wherewithal to be like, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do? I have a wonderful PA that I worked with in oncology who, wound up having 2 children under 2. And
Oh,
so
wow.
she, while she loved her position,
Yeah.
this was not working for her and her family.
Mhm.
Being a PA did give her the flexibility to say, okay, for now, I'm going to go work in
Mhm.
urgent care so I can do 3 shifts a week
Yeah.
and spend the rest of time with me. So I do think that's what the PA profession, I think that's what people think about when they say like
Mhm.
work-life balance. That's really just flexibility,
Yeah.
and being
And
able to change. But I do think it's important for people to realize that just because you wanted to do this and you worked for it doesn't mean that if you're miserable, you have to stay in that,
that's
particular
true. And,
place.
in our case, we realized that the mid levels, the ones of us who were there, we were kind of creating negativity by griping
Mhm.
to each other about our
Yes.
schedules. And finally, yeah, I talked to my office manager and kind of broke down and told him what I was going through. And it turns out I was not the only one.
Yeah.
But in my head, everybody else was functioning just fine.
Right.
They weren't.
Exactly. They weren't. Yeah, and I mean, that's important too because, it's important to be open and talk about these things, and not be afraid to go to your administration and say, is there another option? Like if you're a
Yeah.
good PA and you're offering a lot of value to a practice and you don't want to leave, but you
Yeah.
don't want to stay, why not just talk to them? What's the worst that they could say? They
Yeah,
could say,
that you're done, and then,
yeah,
you say,
you,
"Okay."
yeah, I mean, they basically what's the worst they could say? "No, you still have to do what you do or you can't work here." Well, then that's a
Right.
decision that you have to make, but if you never ask to go part-time, then
Yeah.
how do you know that that's not an option, you know? I don't
Right.
know. That's kinda what I think of. And then also I find that, for successful people, we're always looking for the next thing,
Yeah.
and then you get there and you're like, "That's it?"
Right. So, yeah, you have to find some of that fulfillment, in here, but that takes a lot of work.
Yeah. So what do you do sort of for yourself, I guess, to try to
Yeah. So
combat the burnout and try and stay sane and all of those things?
so I kind of knew all the steps to take. I mean, I meditate every
Mhm.
day. I exercise almost every day. I eat all the
Mm,
right foods, and
mhm.
I see a therapist.
Yeah,
I'm a yoga teacher and I was teaching
that's
yoga
awesome.
twice a week.
Mhm.
And so I felt like such a hypocrite because I would go in and, oh, let's center ourselves. And then I'd leave and I'm like, to do all my notes. So, I was doing all the things, but I think it just took an internal realization that I need to do this for me.
Yeah,
And if I don't, this is my life, my one and
right,
only wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver says. And, you have to show up for it.
right. Yeah. Being present is hard.
Yeah.
I am an absolutely horrible meditator. I can't do it. I was trying to meditate the other night in bed, like before, like do one of these like sleep meditations, and I was like itch, like I was laying there and I'm like I'm itchy, like I'm itchy here, I'm itchy here, and I turned to David. I'm
Yeah.
like I am the worst meditator. in the world. But it's like the person's talking and it's like da, 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 and I'm like oh my god, I forgot to do
I
this. What else
know.
did I do? I'm like I am bad at this. This is not. But I know
I
it takes
know.
practice. I really try. But it does take practice. I think, exercise goes a long way. I do the same thing. I try to do it most days, and I like to listen to audiobooks, like
Yeah,
that's
inspirational stuff.
mhm,
You were talking on your podcast with another PA who was
mhm.
talking about words of affirmation.
Yes.
And so even when I am at my lowest, I will make myself say stuff like, I am an
Yeah.
amazing mom,
Yeah.
or, I am in the best shape of my life, even if
Yeah.
I've just eaten, Rice Krispie treats or whatever.
And how many kids do you have total?
I have two. So my oldest is 13 and my youngest
Okay.
is 8.
Nice. Okay. And have they noticed a change in you at all?
Yeah, I think so. Now, when I was home over furlough, they were like, "You are in the best mood," and I'm like, "Yeah," because I have no other, I'm totally focused on y'all.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think since I've been back at work, they've seen a difference compared to
Mhm.
pre-furlough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's this week, Mia went back to school
Yeah,
and it's been a very hard transition, I think, for her, for all of us getting back, into a schedule. She's been definitely, acting out a little bit more
oh
just because I
yes,
think she's anxious. And oh
our daughters
man,
sound similar.
I I try not to drink during the week, but last night I
Yeah.
poured myself a fatty glass of wine because I was like, I might like run away and never come back.
Yeah. And my kids will
Um,
even say, like, "Go take a bath." They've
yeah,
learned, like, "Go, mom, is there a yoga class online right now?"
I know. I was like, oh my God. But it definitely is hard trying to gauge their expectations. And I've been home a ton.
Mhm.
So, it's just trying to manage that and again, the guilt. Like I feel bad.
Mhm.
Should we have done this? Like blah blah. But at the end of the day, like you said, I have to remind myself like I'm making the decisions that are best for my family
Yeah.
and for me and and for Dave. So um those positive affirmations, I really tell a lot of pre-PAs
Yeah.
too, because they're like, I just never feel like this is gonna happen. I'm like, well, that's because that's what you keep saying.
Exactly. And stop comparing yourself to other people. Like
Hmm.
everybody's in their own lane, and you need to
Yeah.
keep your eyes on your path. Because if you're
Yep.
supposed to go to PA school and that's, what you're
Yeah.
going to do as a career, you'll get in. It may not
Right.
happen the first year, but you'll discover lots in that year that needed along
Yeah.
your path.
Yeah. I just feel like, I mean, are you happy with this profession overall?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's the only one I've ever known. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
am. I don't know anything else. But I
Um,
will tell you this. I have to have other outlets for creativity. That's huge
yes.
in my life. So I do a lot of writing and cooking, and those are two ways that I find
Hmm.
huge fulfillment. So I've learned that I can't expect my career to deliver all of what I need.
That's a very important
Hmm.
point. Because I think when I was in Texas and I was getting burned out, I was like, I need something outside of my clinical practice. So let me do
Yes.
all of these things, but they were all PA related.
Oh, yeah. So
They
what have
were
you found
all
now?
medical related. And you know what I mean? And I love
Yeah.
doing those things, but I was like, I don't have any hobbies. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I literally exercise and like work,
That
and
counts.
I was like, I mean, I exercise. Yes, at the time did triathlons and things like that, um, but yeah, exercise is still going to be a hobby for me.
Hmm.
It's not a hobby. Exercise is just part of my life. I don't
Yeah.
consider that a hobby. So I'm
Right.
like, I gotta get some hobbies. Like, why don't I make jewelry or like do? So I tried like a bunch
Uh-huh.
of different stuff, And Dave's like,
Yeah.
"What are you doing?" I'm like, "Just trying different stuff. Try find a
Yeah. You
hobby."
just follow your curiosity. If there's something
Like,
you're curious about, then try it.
yeah, and I mean, and I like to do small, like, DIY projects, and
Uh-huh.
not big ones, but, like, I like to take on creative things,
Yeah.
and use that side of my brain. Like, Dave loves to cook, so
Yeah.
it's, like, therapeutic for him. He
Uh-huh.
really likes it. And so, for me, it's just making sure that I do something where I feel like I'm using my creativity as
Mm-hmm.
well, and, well, that's kind of how I started all of this too, is just doing something that's a little outside my normal.
Yes. And it perks you up and it lights you
Yeah.
up.
It gives you energy. If something is
Yeah.
not giving you energy, get it out of your life.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
someone.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Speaking of which, I like to talk about patients and
yeah.
coworkers and how they can be energy drains
Yes.
sometimes. Not that any of mine are, you know, but
Caveat, not
yeah, yeah,
hers.
not mine, not my family, not my coworkers. But you really do have to kind of guard your energy and put things in that light you up, and also sort of keep a distance from things that are sucking the energy from you.
Yeah. Oh, what is that? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I agree. That was weird. I agree. I think that um when you're in a workplace where everybody is complaining
Yes.
all day long,
Uh huh.
it's, oh, this patient did this, or, oh, God, they don't pay me enough, or, oh, it is literally like all consuming. And then
It
you get
is.
sucked into it. You get sucked in the drama, and then you get negative, and it's just, so not that everybody has to be happy at work all the time, but just
Mm-hmm.
for me, what I've decided to do is not get involved with that,
Yeah.
like not, um, I guess just try not to participate in that,
Yeah.
as much as possible, and really just try to stay on the outside of it and focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I agree with you completely. That's a really good point.
Yeah, there's I let my medical assistants watch this video of a plant experiment at IKEA. Have you seen that?
No.
So they have two plants, identical plants in these boxes, glass boxes, and they have the same light, same oxygen, same water. And school kids, this was before COVID, would come in and they would say ugly words like "You're so ugly, I hate you" to all these plants,
Oh
to
my
the one
god.
plant, and then the other plant they would say "You're amazing, you're." And the plants, they have the time lapse camera, and the one that
Yeah.
had the negative energy around it actually wilted and just looked, like it
I
was
need to watch
dying. Yeah,
this.
show your daughter that because it'll really teach her how you think words don't matter and energy doesn't matter, but it really
Yeah.
does.
I know. I sound like such a cornball when I say to people,
I do too. I sound woo
don't
woo.
put that out in the universe. And they're like, you're a quack. Like I
Yeah. But it won't hurt anything to believe that.
exactly. And also like now I'm gonna show them that video. I gotta go find that. Um, but it's important to really try to, not that you have to be positive all the time. And when things aren't great, take the time and wallow. Like,
Yeah.
do the thing.
Mhm.
But you know it's definitely a difficult balance when you're caring for, like I said, like when your job is caring for other people and then
Yeah.
you come home and you're immediately caring for your family, your kids. And sometimes it takes very little for her to push me over the edge,
Yes.
and other days I am super like calm. So just trying to balance that, with her. And it's hard. And
Yeah.
learning your kids, personalities and what they need is also something I
Mhm.
never thought about. I
Yeah.
guess I never thought that my child would be a lot like Dave.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I mean, she's a lot like me from a personality standpoint.
Uh-huh.
But there are certain things about her and I'm like, "Oh my god. Not only do
And
you look just like him, you do that just like."
yeah, and I swear my both kids and my husband, their love languages are quality time, and
Yeah.
that is not mine.
Me. Oh, I could. Oh my god, that is so true. He's like, "I just wanna spend time
Oh yes,
together." I'm
I want
like,
to sit
"I
on
wanna
your
be
lap
alone.
and
Can I be alone?"
and see, mine is words of affirmation. So when I'm at work and patients are like, "Oh, thank you, you helped clear me up," and I'm like, "Oh, feels so good."
So how did you find that how did you discover that about yourself? Like,
Oh, well, I
is
say I
that like
read
a
that book.
practice you've done? Oh, you read a book. Okay.
Yeah, the five love languages. I think it's
Okay.
Gary Chapman. And they have one for kids too, and the kids can take a little quiz if they're old
Oh,
enough.
wow. Okay.
But yeah, I realized that that is when she is the happiest. And my son, he just says, I just want to talk to you and just spend time with you, which is so
Yeah.
nice because he's 13. And
Right.
I try to
Oh,
appreciate that.
how cute.
I know,
Yes. That's
but
going
it,
away soon. So I
yeah,
appreciate it.
I
Yeah.
know. But then my husband, he just wants to talk when he gets home from work, and I just don't.
It's so funny because that's what Mia says. I just want to be with you. I'm like,
Hmm.
I just want to be alone, like,
I
or I just
know.
want to pee alone. And can I
Yeah.
just put the trash out alone, or
Uh
yeah.
huh.
And but that's what she needs,
Yeah.
and that's what Dave likes. Like he wants to be together, like as a family when he's not
Yeah.
working. He's like, I want to be together as a family, like when I'm not working. And I'm like, but I don't. I feel the same way. I mean, I guess I have to read this because I like the positive affirmations too, but I think I have to know what the other love languages are
Yes,
and take the
yes.
quiz.
Acts of service, that's one.
Okay, that's probably one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You want him to do stuff for you.
yeah, exactly.
Like wash the dishes and yeah.
Um, but I think that's important to learn about yourself, right? And
Yeah.
your partner
Uh-huh.
and your kid,
Yes.
to be able to make it work. I'm gonna have to do that for sure. Um, what would you say is the hardest part about being a PA and a mom, um, and a woman? What is the hardest part of that for you?
I think just feeling pulled in so many different directions, my
Mhm.
attention and my energy and the time.
Yeah.
It's just you never feel like you're giving what each person or each thing needs. You feel like everybody's coming up short because
Yeah.
of you. And so
Right.
then you have the guilt on top of it.
Yeah, that's hard. And what would you say is the number one thing that has helped you manage everything?
Oh, I think trying to so journaling and writing about what I'm
Yeah.
going through. So you just put it on paper and kind of get it out of your head. That's been
Mhm.
extremely helpful. If you're not a writer, you can see a therapist and just get it out.
Mhm.
And I think by doing that, it just makes it less scary and less
Yeah.
overwhelming. And you just kind of realize that those are your thoughts, but that's not who you are.
Right.
So you can just watch them, just like clouds going by. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
woo woo, but
Yeah. I
You don't
mean,
have to believe those things about yourself.
exactly. And I think everyone should have a therapist.
I do too. Yes.
I really do. It's like the best. Also, I love mine. So I'm like, but I think it's just so, and if you're not a talker, journal. So you started a blog, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So at first I started a private blog because I was like, I don't want people to see what I'm writing. And I still
Yeah.
have that one. And I do that one every day. And I just write whatever. And some of it's
Yeah.
terrible and I wouldn't want anybody to see it. But then I take things that I think would be helpful for other people and I put it on my regular blog, Hope the PA. And some of it, is you worry about putting yourself out there. It's
Yeah.
scary, but I get a lot out of it, and I hope other people will if they
Hmm.
read it.
Yeah. And that's how I started. I started by blogging.
Yeah.
I started by blogging about, how difficult it was for me to move with Dave all those
Mm-hmm.
times, being very honest about it.
Yeah. It's probably
Um,
so therapeutic just to
and
get it
it was
out.
super therapeutic. Like I remember writing one, it was called like the 20 something grade, and it was about how Dave was like literally in that grade, like,
Yeah.
and because he had trained for so long. But I wrote it, I got to go find that because I wrote it so long ago. And but it was really about how hard it was for me as a wife, as a
Uh-huh.
woman, as a PA to just pick up and move all those
Right.
times to places
Yeah.
where I knew no one.
Yeah. And so
And
often we feel like we don't have a voice as
right.
women and so by putting it on paper or like you're doing a podcast and talking to people about it, that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And, that's not easy to do. And especially if you have kids, I know, other wives with kids who've
Yeah.
moved many times for their husband's career and, all of that too. And it's not that easy. And I just wanted to get it out there. And I didn't care if anybody read it. I just wanted
Yeah.
to see, like, if there was one person that read it and was like, oh man, I totally feel that, then
Mhm.
great. Right.
Yeah.
And putting yourself out there, and I've said this before, is really hard.
Yeah.
But, I approached it and I still approach it as, if I can have somebody take away something,
Yeah.
from what I've said or written
Exactly.
or done, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah.
what people usually feel, I think, is relief. They say, I'm not the only one.
Yes,
And just,
exactly.
yeah, allowing them to feel seen and heard through your experience.
Yeah, it's great. So if you guys haven't checked out Hope's blog, it's Hope the PA, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And very honest about her experiences and what it's like to be a mom and a PA, and stay true to yourself and
Yeah,
be happy, right? Because we all just want to be
that's
happy.
right.
We all just want to be happy. And so I really appreciate you being here and sharing this with us.
This was so much
Um,
fun.
this is so much fun. This is why I like doing podcasts. I get to talk to people like you and connect with everybody like face to face, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I can see her. You guys can hear us, but I can see her. But it's great. And I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. And keep up the good work with your podcast.
Thank you so much.